Well, greetings. Here we are on March 20th, 2025, the C-Suite Network Women's Coaching and Consulting Council. Today's program is going to be fantastic. We are so grateful that you're here, and we're also grateful that you're watching the replay. Today's topic is so timely, like all of our programs. We're talking about the state of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in the workplace, and how you as a coach, consultant, trusted advisor, thought leader can be aligned with what's happening. So today's topic is so critical, and we are so thrilled and so grateful to have Gloria St. Martin-Lowry as our speaker. So we'll talk more about Gloria in a moment. But quickly, I'm Kathleen Caldwell, founder of C-Suite Network's Women's Coaching and Consulting Council. Hey, I'm so excited. I am celebrating 28 years as a coach on May 31st. So I am so excited about that. And I just did a little article about this. I attended the second ICF conference in Greenleaf, Florida during a hurricane. And so this hurricane is the metaphor for really what we've been going through as coaches and consultants all the years and what we're going through now. So thank you. I'm just so grateful to be here and to be introducing our program. And as you know, very quickly, just wanted to quickly recap our programs. We did an incredible International Women's Day program. Hey, this is going to be an annual event on the Thursday after International Women's Day. And as you know, International Women's Day is always on March 8th. We'll be gathering the Thursday afterwards to talk about how do you activate and put to work everything that you learned, you are inspired by on International Women's Day. We cannot let all of that wisdom and motivation go to sleep. So we in our council, we're here to motivate that. So that's our first program was fantastic. Check out the replay. We also we had a panel discussion about how to become the category of one coach consultant and why this is so critical. Check out the replay on that. The future of coaching and consulting, why you must become a media company, and also align yourself with C-Suite Network, which has the ecosystem, the systems, the programs, the processes, podcasting ability, just like Deb Creer here in attendance, and thought leadership partnerships like with Gloria and myself and many, many, many others. So check that out. Carol Kammerer talked about how to leverage LinkedIn for greater career success. Susan K. Younger talked about a whole new body of work she's launching called Humanitarianism. Fantastic. Connect with her on that. And then, of course, we talked about how to maximize the New Year effect. Did you know by the first Thursday after New Year's Day, it's also called Quitter's Day. People give up on their dreams, hopes, and aspirations. Well, you know, as coaches, we cannot let them, and we will not let people give up. So it's so critical for us to double down on our goals at the same time supporting our clients. We do a lot, right? In our council every Thursday at 1 Eastern. So our goal today is to have a fact-based conversation. We want to avoid any sort of politics, left, right, middle, wherever people are at, and to really use this as a framework to navigate these changes that are happening with diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We want to talk about how to manage the risks and also how to position inclusion as a strategic advantage, not only for you, but also for the companies, the associations, organizations, education, government, wherever you're a coach consultant, healthcare, anything that you can be a neutral zone, so to speak, and be able to come in clear-eyed to support your clients. And so we're going to model that here in our session today. And so you cannot, as you know, you can't pick up a news feed, read a news feed, pick up the newspaper, watch TV, do whatever you're doing on your phone to know that changes have been happening, right? With diversity, equity, inclusion. And of course, we've also included belonging in this. So there's so many changes that are happening. Gloria and I are going to talk about this, and we want to get the conversation going. Things are unsettling for many people. And for many of our clients, they feel like they're in the winter of their careers, their businesses, their lives, because things that were taken for granted, things that people invested themselves in, are now going away or are certainly changing. And so you as a coach consultant have a tremendous opportunity to support your clients. And so I just want to go through a couple, kind of big picture slides, get Gloria involved to, to bring her point of view and get the conversation going. But we know things are changing. Adaption is the key, helping our clients adapt to the new norm. And Gloria and I were talking before our broadcast today. We don't even really know what the new norm is, right, Gloria? The new norm will be different tomorrow. Yes, yes. And so, but what we do know is recent executive orders are reshaping DEIB, particularly for federal contractors, federal employees, corporations, and institutions. And so we're not here to be employment lawyers. We're not here to be DEI accountants. We're here to be consultants to guide and advise our clients on the things that we know. So if there's one great takeaway from our time together is please get yourself entrenched in what's happening. Today is a catalyst to give you a broad picture, but it's important that you double down. And of course, these are the things that we talk about in our council. So join our council to learn more. What we also know is that government, education, nonprofits, they have to take a new look at how they're getting their funding, grants, and also their hiring policy. They need to revise their outlook, their perspectives, and then all of the policies, procedures, handbooks, websites, everything needs to be changed because there's a new set of compliance that all organizations, whether you're for-profit, nonprofit, or in the government, you need to be aware of. And organizations making these changes, but also to know that things like legally protected disability, veterans affirmative action, Title VII, those kinds of programs are still in place. But things like race and gender-based preferences have been removed. And again, we want to pull in the best of the best. And so it's my great privilege to introduce Gloria St. Martin-Lowry, who is a fantastic person. Personally, first of all, a great leader, president of HPWP Group. She's a Harvard Business Review published author, and she is a well-known and esteemed author, speaker, thought leader, creating groups and alumni organizations of her programs all around the world. So with this, Gloria, I want to turn the podium over to you to start our discussion about this important topic, DEIB. So with that, thank you, Gloria.
Great. Thank you for that. My internet's cutting out a little bit, so if I freeze up for a moment and then come back, feel free to have me back up a little bit. I was excited about this as a topic because it is near and dear to my heart, and maybe it's because of my corporate days being in human resources, and our focus was all about being non-discriminatory, treating people as individuals and working in very diverse companies as well. And for me, what's happening in the world today is we're taking DEI or DEIB and taking a 3 or 4 letter acronym and turning it into a 4-letter word. And that's the world that we live in now, is that we've really done an about face. It feels like because the political environment is so schizophrenic, we're pro-DEI with one administration, we're anti-DEI with another. Businesses are left with how to operate. And how do I navigate the world with the people who are on my team or the kind of employees that I want to attract? And, leaders are in this tough situation, companies are in this tough situation to say, what do we do with all of it? Is it should we be pulling back? What should we be doing? And before our call, I looked to see more recently where companies stand on DEI. And there are, a number who've said, let it go. No surprise, it's the tech giants of Meta and Google, Amazon, Boeing, Pepsi. really large companies have pulled back. What I love, though, was seeing some large companies who are still keeping their DEI efforts. Apple put it up to a shareholder vote, and 97% of the shareholders said don't take it out because they were worried about risk. And so they posed it to shareholders. That's a whopping 97% said, keep it, we're fine. Hyundai said, of course, we're sticking with DEI because it drives sales and it drives the bottom line for us. Verizon, they're recently using it in recruiting for a culture of learning that fosters diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if that's the place you want to be, come join us. So they're even using it as a recruiting tactic, right? Procter & Gamble said equality and inclusion is good for business. Deutsche Bank and Goldman Sachs joined other banks to say, we're going to keep doing what makes sense for us. And so you can see it's all over the place. I saw another statistic where the New York Times reported that out of the S&P 500 companies, 60% of those that have referenced DEI in their annual filings have scaled that back or eliminated reference to DEI. So you can see we're kind of all over the place with it. And it doesn't have to be that way. Kathleen, I love that you said, we're in the winter of our careers. And a lot of times we associate winter with storms. And when storms happen, we have a choice to make. And we typically run away from the storms. And I had a friend share with me a great story about animals and said, all animals run away from the storms, which means they keep running and running and running and running. Unlike the buffalo, or the buffalo herd runs to the storm. And they do that with the mindset of, if you run into it, you're going to get to the other side. Because as you're running into it, it's going the other way. And that's really the mindset that I think that we should have as leaders in any tough times, not just related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We faced a pandemic. Businesses were challenged with the pandemic. And so what do you do there? We had to deal with it. So that was a little easier for businesses to lean in to keep moving forward. We ought to have that same mindset with the other challenges that are going to be thrown our way. And those are just going to continue to happen. So starts with mindset. Don't run away from a storm because it'll keep chasing you. It'll keep chasing you. And I don't know who's going to give up first, the storm or you. Depends on your stamina, I guess, but let's lean into the things that are hard. I think for me, part of the concern or frustration that I have is I think DEI is misunderstood. And some of the legal challenges that have been around it have been based on quotas. And that's not what the vast majority of companies are doing with DEI. If I think about all the people that I know in the corporate world, I do not know a single company that has DEI initiatives that are about quotas or hiring people based on that. Most of the people that I know that work in companies have education and training on what inclusion is all about. Most of the companies that I interact with have employee resource groups, and they have these ERGs to broaden awareness. I work with one company, they started with an ERG, employee resource group, on women in leadership, and then Hispanics and veterans and the Gay Alliance, right? They do these employee resource groups as a way to bridge gaps, to welcome people in, to shed some of the misunderstandings that go along with how people are different. And I wish more of us would look at it from that angle and that aspect. DEI, and we're going to say it because even though that's a dirty word in a lot of circles today, is important. Diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, diversity of background leads to just better outcomes. And the companies that embrace that diversity of thought, that diversity of background, they end up with more creative ideas and innovation. They have more people engaged, which leads to faster decision-making and better results along the way. It helps teams grow when people feel valued and heard, they feel understood. And when that happens, they are significantly more engaged and they care about the success of the team. They care about the success of the company and they show up differently. You can add that to the fact that we've got our lowest levels of employee engagement ever. We do engagement surveys every year, and that number never seems to get any higher. If it does, it's by small percentages, and now it's down. You know, my question is, how much lower can it go, right? And so it really, for me, is we have to set the fear aside and say, we've got people, human beings working for us that are impacted, and we're making decisions without regard to that. And think about it, if you look at the younger population, baby boomers, we're exiting at really fast rates. Millennials and Gen Z make up the largest part of the workforce today. That number is going to continue to increase. Gen Z, diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, those are core values for them. And they're core values for them because they've grown up in much more diverse, it's a much more diverse group than those of us of an older generation. And for them, it's not just a value, it's a core value. And so if that's your current workforce and your increasingly future workforce, we've got to tune into what's important to them as well. Gosh, Kathleen, I felt like I was on a soapbox. I respectfully off the soapbox.
Gloria, we are loving this from you. And clearly this is such an important topic and you are the perfect person to speak to this. And feel free to jump in with any questions you may have. If you have questions in the chat, jump in as well. My question to start too, Gloria, is what are you getting as the vibe? I do corporate coaching and consulting. You do too, and many of us on the call do too. What are you noticing as the vibe out in the workplace? I think that's just the best question. What's happening now, not only with HR, L&D, but also employee resource groups and just the vibe, because you're tapped right into that, Gloria.
Yeah, and it may be skewed a little bit because the folks that I know and the folks that I work with are the folks who see the benefits and the value of inclusivity. Like who wants to disagree with having an inclusive workplace? I don't think anybody does. I think the term DEI scares folks. I think that concept scares folks. But if you ask companies and leaders, do they want an environment that's inclusive? Do they see benefits of that? They say yes. So for me, the folks that I work with, they're still going forward. What I'm also hearing is some sensitivity to how they frame it, because there is resistance. Some of these, I can think of one company in particular, really large that we work with. When they launched their employee resource groups, they've already dealt with the pain of going, why do we need to have a women in leaderships group? Why do we need to focus on the Hispanic population? Why do we need to have the gay ER? I mean, why do we need to do this? They've already dealt with that kind of stuff to create more open discussion, that they're not letting it go. They're a little concerned with how do they position it, how do they describe it, but other than that, they're still sticking with it. My sister was a federal employee. She worked for the Department of the Navy as a civilian forever, and she just retired last year before all this craziness happened. And she was a person who was responsible, human resources. I was in the public sector, she's in the government sector. And I should say that around, she was public, I was private. And for her, she's really glad she's not working now. She's really glad she's had retired because she'd be faced with dealing with this, and it's frustrating to her. In all the DEI training that she did, it was around inclusion and understanding. It wasn't about quotas. It wasn't about critical race theory. It wasn't about some of those super crazy headlines you see. And, she is really, really happy she's not having to be in HR dealing with that. So she's the only person that I know who works in a company that doesn't care about DEI anymore. So my finger on the pulse is just with companies who have, dare I say, still remain enlightened. Don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys have seen or heard or felt other things. The things that I've heard from some other folks are headline stuff, not real, actual experiences. I was in a conversation with another person. This was months ago. This was before all the rollback on DEI, because we were talking about the woke culture. And he went on to describe what companies are doing with DEI specifically and how outrageous it was. And I just said, well, tell me who they are, because that is not my experience. And I could give several examples of the clients that I've worked with. Then he went on down the government path, and he said, well, let me pull out my sister who worked for the
right
card, and that wasn't her experience. And yet through this conversation, I was genuinely looking for, tell me what companies are doing crazy stuff, because I don't see it. And he didn't have anything specific other than what the headlines really were. And I think that just shows how, and I think he's a good guy, a smart guy. I think that just shows how emotionally charged this topic is, and how quickly we jump to believing the things that we want to believe about it. And, I jump to believing the things that I want to believe about it. And that said, I also want to live in the real world and understand, well, is it happening other places? Yeah, so I can do the research and look up online admissions practices. Okay, that got overturned in the Supreme Court. Well, if you're doing quotas, I get why people would be concerned about that. But what percentage of the population of business is that?
Right.
That we're willing to put, executive orders to pull stuff out? I mean, we're not done with all of this. These executive orders have changed things. And if you just look at the headlines from day to day on the Department of Defense is cleaning up their website because they don't want anything that promotes DEI. And yet we're removing, what I saw this morning is Jackie Robinson's military service.
They did put it back.
They did put it back.
And what they said was, oops, the computer did it.
Yeah, and the computer was programmed to do it. I saw over the weekend the documents related to the Enola Gay were stripped from the website. Well, because it had the word gay in it. Another military leader with a last name of Gay, African-American person, was deleted. And these things will continue to create emotion on all sides, right? Which is yes, down with DEI, and then, holy cow, you're erasing our history. And, we're going to continue to be in this circular cycle. And as business leaders, we need to set the noise of politics aside and say, we've got responsibility for the people in our care, the people in our charge, that's our team. And we have, yes, shareholders that we have to look after. We also have to connect with our customer base. And I think it's oftentimes lost on folks that if you're serving a community of diverse people, what's the impact when you want to scale back DEI efforts? What's the message that you're sending to your customer base? And so let's, set politics, throw it out there, no matter what side you're on, and just say, we've got a business to run, and that business relies on people on our team. Let's take a real serious look inward and say, what's important to us? What are our values? What's important to us as a company, us as leaders, and what's important to our team? And that's where you get the best kind of discussion and you get the best kind of outcome. So.
Well, and Gloria, you brought up so many important things, and Deb, thank you. And then also in our chat, talking about, hey, that this is a tremendous opportunity for leaders, which is really your area of expertise too, Gloria, about leadership and team building. And as you were talking about, it's another transformation. It's business transformation, which is what business is all about. And so from your perspective, what are your thoughts about where are the opportunities? Where are you and your company doubling down, so to speak, in being a service, adding more value around this important topic?
Yeah, I think for me, what I'm seeing is it starts with, we have to reframe it.
Yeah.
The conversation is so divisive, and DEI is turned into a 4-letter word. And I think we need to take a deep breath and reframe it. When we put another frame around something, we can see it from a different perspective. And I think that's what's really needed here is let's release the negative connotations with it, and let's reframe what it is we're trying to achieve. And so, our focus is supporting companies and supporting leaders with that, in this mindset of, because we're all about high performance, right? And so, our mindset is, if, here's the position, right? We're committed to building a high performing team, right? And a team where everyone feels valued, heard, and empowered. And that's what inclusive leadership is about. And, it's going to be the very rare person who's going to say, no, inclusive leadership is stupid, right? It's hard to argue. You can't argue with that. And then it is really looking for the opportunity and connecting it to business results. People make a difference. And if we're being inclusive in terms of not just who we hire, but inclusive in terms of how we treat people in our organizations, we can then tie it to business results, more creativity, more innovation, more teamwork that gets results faster. And we need to treat this like this inclusive leadership is a value, is an important, not a compliance thing, not a check the box thing. And I think DEI became a little bit of that. If it is just another thing you do, then that is either extra work or it's compliance versus it's the way we do work. We do work, we accomplish our work through diversity of thought and ideas and opinions and backgrounds and experiences. That's where you get a more committed workforce. And then the last thing that I would add to that is we have to think about measuring what matters, right? And culture in our companies, they're important. And for the workforce in today's world and going forward, all indication is it's going to continue to be important. So what are we measuring on culture? What are we measuring on? We measure engagement. What are we measuring in terms of collaboration and innovation, right? So we can be looking at different kinds of outcomes as well.
Oh, Gloria, excellent.
Thank you so much for all this. This has been just wonderful. I love that you brought up quotas, because I remember quotas, right? I'm old enough that I remember when those things were forced, whether it was school enrollment, all of those various things. And so I'll be honest, that is where my brain went. And so I think that's, that is where people are getting stuck on that. And but we're forgetting that we have to hire the best. and we're needing that for, what we're doing with our, our products and our services. We need all of that input and all of those voices. I interviewed a young man on my podcast yesterday who he was a riot, but he was using words I didn't know. He was talking about products I had never even heard of. He was half my age, he was male, and he was Black. Now,
Mhm.
if my company was trying to reach that target, I would have totally missed the mark, right? Because I wouldn't be using the right terms, all of those things. And so I think that's where people really need to think, who are we trying to reach? And I think the companies that have said, hey, we need to continue doing this. I mean, Apple's probably the best example. They're trying to reach, I mean, they're one of the few companies that everyone is almost their target market.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they need to be using those right terms, getting that input from their workers, and and all of those things. And I think that's the thing that people need to forget, you need to remember.
Yeah. And it is, I love that you said it too, because it's like when we don't know stuff, it's foreign to us. We also have a choice there in terms of how we react. And it makes me
Mhm.
think about the Super Bowl halftime show,
Right.
right?
Oh
Where
yeah.
with
Not
Ken
my
Clark.
market, but it was still so popular.
Yeah. And the thing that was so curious to me was you could go to social media after, when it was a bunch of white
Mhm.
people complaining
Mhm.
about what this was all about. It's like, oh, and how would they do that? And why did they have only all Black people in it? And like the conversation on social media was
Mhm.
ridiculous, funny, and sad, kind of all at the
Mhm.
same
Mhm.
time. And I think it leads us to, Deb, you're talking your openness. For me, I was just like, I thought it was great. I loved a lot about it, and I didn't have the full context. And so for me, curiosity is a value for me. And so
Mhm.
I became curious. And I was just like, okay, so I understood. I knew that there was a beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, but I didn't really understand it. I spent a little bit more time.
Yeah, it was like, oh, mhm.
I learned so much, not just
Mhm.
about the beef, but the importance to and the connection to the Black community.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's like I wish we would all be a little bit more curious,
Right.
because if we're
Mhm.
curious, we're going to
Mhm.
question, we're going to be more open, and we're going to resist jumping straight to judgment. I
Right.
started my HR career, at a manufacturing company, and we had to have an affirmative action plan. And yet, despite having an affirmative action plan, we never had quotas. So I think there were even misunderstandings about affirmative action
Mhm.
back in the day.
Mhm.
We got audited by the OFCCP, and their focus was on you need to be representative of your community,
Mhm.
which we were almost okay with. And they said, here are areas where we want to see deliberate action on your part to reach a couple of other communities. So how could we expand our recruiting efforts to reach a few of those
Mhm.
represented communities, but never about quotas. Now, did some companies have quotas? Were they expected by the government? I don't know. DEI, I think, is the same way. And with HPWP Group, we have an alumni network, and it came up on one of our calls. And there we ended up, it was a short discussion, but it was pretty interesting because there were a number of folks whose immediate thoughts went to, we're not hiring the best person. It's like, well, that's not necessary. Let's not make that as a blanket statement, right? Just because you hire a woman doesn't mean she's a DEI hire. I mean, I'm speaking to women on the group here. And it doesn't mean that we're not hiring the best. And so we have to peel back the layers to just help people understand a little bit more and resist those attention grabbing headlines. DEI shouldn't be about quota. Inclusivity
Yes.
doesn't need to be about quotas.
Thank you, Gloria. And also the be belonging part of it. And isn't that what we want for our clients, is to be able to have an environment of people feeling they belong, they matter, they make a difference, and that they make an impact, which will be positive throughout the organization and throughout the supply chain, right?
Yep. Yep. And
Yes.
we live in a world that's a little more disconnected. And even with younger generations, connection is huge,
Yeah.
right? And knowing that you're, feeling good about the place that you're working because you matter is that sense of belonging. And you can throw all the acronyms out the door. Good leadership is about creating an environment where people feel included, where people feel like they belong. It's their tribe. And when people are part of a tribe, they fight harder for it. They just,
Excellent.
and don't we want that on our team anyways? Set the labels aside and just create a great environment where people matter.
Gloria, this has been glorious. Thank you. My goodness. Very, very great. Great. So we've got in our chat a lot of appreciation, a lot of thumbs up for you, a lot of hearts. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is clearly a body of work and a real important topic for you in your thought leadership. So I just so
So
appreciate you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity to join the discussion.
Absolutely. Deb, do you want to join in? Because I think this is an important business power hour topic.
This
for
is
you.
most
And
definitely, and we've talked about it on the podcast before. And of course, I'd love to have Gloria on, because I think it is one of the biggest things is, the thing that the incorrect that are, exactly what we were saying, and just why it is so incredibly important for everybody, whether you're, the business of one or the business of a million. Why is this so important?
Yep. And our motto needs to be, just in general, from a leadership perspective, from a coaching and consulting perspective, is let's buffalo this, right? When we're faced with tough times, let's buffalo this. That's the friend that shared the story. That's their family motto. We're gonna have tough times as a family, and when we do, we're gonna stick together and head straight to that storm. So
I am a buffalo. I'm a CU
was-
buff.
I
just
know, I was
love
thinking
that.
to myself, this is like
I
this.
was looking around to see if I had any buffalo that I could. But I love that because they face that storm head on, and it covers them, and is
Crazy, yeah.
passed much more quickly.
Excellent. Excellent.
Get
Oh
to
my
the
goodness.
sunshine on the other side faster.
Yeah, very good. Oh, Gloria, this has been so fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I know this is going to be the first of many because this transformation, it's what it is, life transformation business, just the world is an opportunity for us. And so thank you for that. This is just great. So let me go back and just complete our program with just a couple takeaways. And of course, for all of you here, thank you for being here and thank you for participating and putting all of your good content in the chat. And thank you, Deb, also getting your voice in here. Be sure to connect with Gloria St. Martin-Lowry on LinkedIn. And we're going to have this replay up. My team and I will have it up within 24 hours. We would so love for you to watch the replay and pass the replay on to others because we know that corporations, organizations, and associations want to hire people that are going to help them guide them through this process. And Gloria is a great person to do that. So connect with Gloria. And just some final words, takeaways is, hey, this is not, what's happening right now is just not the end of DEIB or DEI, whatever, you're calling it. It truly is a transformation. And I believe firmly that when you learn, you understand. And Gloria, thank you very much for bringing up curiosity. That is so important that when we are able to understand and come from as a coach consultant, the topic, the theme is come from a charged neutral place. When we're able to bring, we're not checking out our heart or humanity, but when we're able to help people come to a place of making strong decisions, bringing their humanity, or in the case of Susan K. Younger, their humanitarian to the workplace, it's really important to their life. So we get to move through these changes. And of course, opportunity, that's what our theme is in our council is Now is the opportunity. We get to step up, make a positive difference, and it's an opportunity for you to position yourself as the category of one to help your clients, your prospects, your communities, associations just make a bigger difference and to be perceived as the thought leader and expert you are. And of course, to run successful businesses, we've got to be able to monetize the work we do. So with that, thank you, thank you. And we had a great kind of Q&A and comments. So questions that you have specifically, reach out to Gloria St. Martin-Lowry on LinkedIn, send her a DM. And I know, Gloria, you would love to get questions and comments. Would you know?
You betcha.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good. And so the time is now. We have got a great opportunity to become the category of one. The world is waiting. We're doubling down on that topic in the month of April. So be sure to get connected, get on our newsletter, and subscribe in our LinkedIn group. You'll learn more about this program. And of course, just a little preview for next week. We've got our faculty, esteemed faculty members gathering 27 minutes, quick in and out every month on the fourth Thursday. And we have some new faculty members to introduce to our group. So very excited about that. And if you have a question, we'd love to invite you to come to be part of our council. Schedule a time with me on Calendly, and let's talk about enhancing your career, your business, and bringing your gifts to our business sisterhood. So with that, thank you, thank you, thank you. Curious, in the chat or live, maybe we just finish up with live. What's your biggest takeaway from our time together? Your biggest takeaway. This helps, this is a learning exercise, helps us kind of put a little wrap a little bow on our time together. What's your biggest takeaway from Gloria's fantastic discussion on this topic?
Be curious and don't stop learning.
Yes, thank you. Be like a buffalo. Yes, exactly. And you can weather the storm. Thank you.
Indeed.
Yes, great. Gloria, thank you. We'll see you soon. Can't wait for the follow-up because we know this is going to generate a lot of questions and commentary and discussion. So with that, thank you. Bye for now. Have a beautiful day, and let's make a difference in the world. Bye, folks.
Take care.
Love to you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.
Okay.